Hello and welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Chris McKinney from Nolan Financial Partners. If you like what you hear on our show today, give us a call at 719-210-4242 or visit us online at our website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. And while at our website, check out the radio page, check out our past shows, and subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. If there's one thing I've learned during my career in the financial services industry, there's no one-size-fits-all retirement strategy. And the goals for retirement are likely to shift during different periods in your life. When you're 25 and still in your career's early chapters, you probably don't give much thought to retiring other than contributing to a 401k. But it's a different story when you're 50 and retirement is potentially drawing closer. So you should ultimately build a financial and retirement strategies that grow and change as you age, and your goals and needs also grow and change. Growing and changing will be our theme today, because that's what happens in retirement, right? So as we explore some potential financial and retirement strategies for when you're at three different important points in your life, we're going to look at 10 years from retirement. We're going to look at 5 years away from retirement. And then we're going to look at 1 year away from retirement. So these different times are important to you for how to plan your retirement. But before we start talking about these three life stages, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tony Shore, who is still the irreplaceable co-host, period.
I don't know about that. I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank you for having me on my show. But wow, I mean, that introduction alone, that's awesome. Thanks for the kind words.
For having you on your show, is that what you said?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on your show, not you on my show. Yeah, did I get that wrong? Yeah, it's just my ego sneaking. My ego was poking through. Yeah, my narcissism. Thank you, Chris, for having you on my show. No, this is your show, and I'm just along for the ride, Chris. You bring the financial knowledge, and that's pretty good, though. I do feel good about this weekend. We were talking before the show. It's Record Store Day weekend. And you know me, I'm a big record collector. So everybody listening, head on out to your local independent record store. They'll have specials. They'll have exclusive records that are only available tomorrow and this weekend. So April 20th, if you hear the show afterwards and watch it online or the podcast, you might miss out. But yeah. So this Saturday when the show airs, that's Record Store Day. So I'm excited. How have you been? What have you been doing? You've been, I know Tara's traveling a lot. You've been running back and forth to the airport with Tara and meeting with clients, right?
Yeah. So I've been handling most of the client meetings, and then also taking care of our animals. And then we've also been, so Tara put on, she got a promotion last fall. And so I've been planning a promotion party for her. And so we've been planning that, and there's a lot that goes into it.
There is
a lot of work.
Yes, I know. I got an invite. That was nice.
Yes. Well, yeah. You've been part of our lives for 10 years now.
Yeah, a lot. It's been a while. Yeah. And that entire 10 years I've been trying to finish the audiobook.
Right.
I can't show up until that's done. So we'll get that done. We'll have to get that done right away. But I know you've been busy, especially with clients, and tax season just wrapped up. Yeah. So, and hey, by the way, before we get into it, where do pirates pay their taxes? Who do they pay?
I don't know, Tony. Where do pirates pay their taxes?
To the IRS. To the IRS. That's a bad dad joke. Had to work that in so bad. So bad.
Your kids are getting too old to be being entertained by that, right?
They were too old to be entertained by my sense of humor years ago, Chris. Trust me on that. Trust me on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they hit junior high, once they hit ninth grade, I think is when it started to stop.
Dad, stop being stupid.
Exactly. Yeah,
No, no. I like it too much.
exactly. All right.
You're my captive audience.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this first phase of how to start planning for retirement. So if you're 10 years away from, you think you're about 10 years away from retirement, it could change, but if you think you're about 10 years away from retirement, the first thing that you've got to determine is how much money you're going to need in an ideal retirement lifestyle, right? So it's thinking about what kind of lifestyle you want to have, kind of things do you want to do, is what makes you happy going out and having a nice meal on a regular basis. Well, you got to plan for that, because going out to dinner for two people at a decent restaurant is going to run about $100 anymore, right? So you got to start having that plan for those kind of things. And if you're going to do that, twice a week, so that's 8 times a month. Well, that's $800 a month. So you got to throw stuff like that in. Going to do that European travel. You're going to buy an RV. What are you going to do? So figure out what your lifestyle is going to be, and then figure out your spending plan, kind of generally in retirement. So if there's an easy rule, it's what they call the 80% rule. Sometimes that works for people, sometimes it doesn't. But it's a place to start. Okay. How
Just a
much money
guideline.
it's a guideline. How much money are you spending now? Okay. Take 80% of that, and that's probably what you're going to spend in retirement. And so it's 80% of the income usually is the way they do it. But depends kind of what your income's like, what your expendable income is like, and how much you're investing. So it's either your income. If you're spending all your income every month, then it's 80% of your income. If you got a lot of leftover money, then look at 80% of your expenditures. So that's how you kind of determine how much money you're going to need. And then
Right.
the next thing you look at is, well, how much money do I have? How much can I spend? And so then that's where we start with it's a Bergen's law. It's what we call the 4% rule. Some guy back in the late 80s, early 90s came up with this rule. If you only spend 4% of your capital, then you can that money will last you about 30 years, right? And that's just a general rule. It's not the same for everything. It depends.
Again, it's more of a guideline than a rule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody's situation is different. And I've heard nowadays with inflation and everything, it's probably you take out a lot less. It's probably only 3% or
right.
Yeah.
But that's inflation happened in the 80s too, right? So
Right.
So that's why you have to make sure that you have your assets that can grow with inflation, and you have to have assets that are safe in case there's market crashes. So that's why we always have that balanced approach. But anyway, so you want to make sure you're not outliving your money. And so this 4% rule gives you just a general guideline. We're 10 years away from retirement. We don't know exactly how much money we're going to have 10 years from now. Because if you're in a good job, you'll probably get raises. You'll probably pack more money away. Who knows what's going to happen with those funds? Are they going to really grow and go nuts for the next 10 years? We don't know, but it's nice to have that plan, kind of starts to see it and start to envision it. You can't hit a target you don't aim at.
Right.
So the other parts about Social Security are Social Security, right? So Social Security is a factor in retirement. The great thing about Social Security is it gets a cost of living adjustment based on inflation. So you may it may not be a big part of your retirement dollars. However, it can become something that helps fight inflations. So it's nice to have. Um, okay, the thing to actually take action on is look at your 401k elections. Look at the risk tolerance. Look and see, how much risk are you accepting there? Is that the right amount for you to retire in 10 years? What happens if there is a big crash in the market? What happens you know, if the bond market crashed like it did in 2012? Then that's kind of a challenge for most 401ks because they use bonds to offset equity drops. So, where are the risk in my 401k? Is there anything I can do to make sure that they don't have those risks? And so what we do here is we can help you do a risk analysis on all these things, right? So we can help you look at it. We kind of separate money into growth money, and we separate money into safe money. And so we have both safe money assets and growth money assets so that you can have your idealized risk tolerance, but with assets that are completely separate, completely different, right? Something that's not tied to the market.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned 401ks, retirement plans. You need to have those looked at, but really you need to work with a professional like yourself. And that's what you
Yes.
do there. If somebody wants to come in and say, okay, here's what I've got. Can you run a report showing me how much risk I have? Here are my
Yeah.
accounts. That is something you do all the time. You do that for your clients, and you're more than happy to meet with people, talk to our listeners about it. But I encourage our listeners to get a second opinion on where they're at. And 10 years out is a good time to really make sure that all your ducks are in a row. And, when you're 10 years out, you can afford to have some risk, but you want to make
Yes,
sure it's properly allocated. So,
that's right.
yeah.
So when I ask people, how did you pick what funds you put in your 401k, what mutual funds to select? And they said, the HR person told me everybody uses this one. So that's what I went with.
Yeah.
You're taking your financial advice from somebody that has some kind of
Yeah.
social degree and works in
Yeah.
HR. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The kid with an associate's degree, if that, in the HR department. Probably
Yeah.
not. I remember a job, not this one, but the one before that, when you signed up for your 401k, there were 3 boxes: high, medium,
Right.
low.
Right.
You check one. No, seriously,
Whoa.
that's how much freedom you had in investing. You checked high risk, medium risk, low risk. And they
That's
took it
that's
from there.
that
It's
is
like, are you kidding
crazy.
me?
Yeah. No, now it's all online.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's
And I
different now,
understand
but
why they did that back then because it'd have been hard, right, to manage all that. But now they have everything online, and so you can go
yeah,
in online and look to see how it's been performing. You can check out the other funds that are available to you, how they're
yeah,
performing,
yeah,
and and
and do
and and move them
comparisons
around.
and
And
everything. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so that
Yeah, and
you
if our
monitor the
listeners need help with that, you can help as well, and
yeah,
help them work with their HR department or go into the database. Usually now you don't even have to go through your HR department. If you ask your HR department, they'll just give you a link and tell you to sign into that portal with whoever,
yeah.
Charles Schwab or wherever it is, Morgan Stanley,
Well,
wherever it's at.
and I've done that. I've helped some clients.
Yeah.
We logged on to their site in the
Yep.
office and helped them. It's confusing sometimes. So I understand if it's confusing. It's what I do, so it's not confusing to me.
Right.
But it's confusing on how to evaluate the different funds that are available to you,
Sure.
and then they don't make it easy to switch around sometimes in those
Yeah.
little portals they have.
Right.
So you have to kind of
Yeah.
fight it a little
So
bit.
so what's the
But
phone number our listeners can call?
hey, call me at 719-210-4242. We'll schedule a complimentary consultation. We'll start looking at that 10-year uh, mark on how you're going to retire and how much money you're going to have and how much fun you're going to have in retirement. We'll talk
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
And we'll help figure out how to get there.
That's awesome. Okay, so that was the 10 years. Now we're on to the 5 years.
Yes.
5 years before the phase where you're 5 years before retirement.
Yeah. So once again, we're gonna have to relook how much money you want to spend in retirement, and how you plan to do that. So when we say a spending plan, we're not talking, okay, you can only spend $50,000 a year, and that's what you're going to spend the whole time. That's not how retirement works. It's totally not it. Your spending plan needs to account for those first 5 years of retirement where you're going to spend a bunch of money
Yeah.
because you're going to go have fun. You're
The
going to
go-go
buy.
years, we
That's
call them.
right. So
Yeah.
you're gonna be doing things. You're gonna be buying the things you need to create hobbies. A friend of mine's dad, Todd, his name was Todd, really good friend. He bought a wood lathe. Okay, and he started making these magnificent vases out of wood that he would just find around Oklahoma, and just really beautiful pieces of art. And that's what he did in retirement is he played with his wood
Wow.
lathe.
Wow.
And so, but he spent a bunch of money on it.
Oh yeah,
It was it was a
that's an
nice one.
expensive hobby or an expensive trade. It's really a
Yeah,
trade.
yeah.
But I know my grandfather had a lathe and made these beautiful miniature pieces of furniture, like little
Oh, sure. For
antique
dollhouses.
milk cans, but it's out of wood with the little lid and
Oh, neat.
everything, tiny little handles and chairs and tables. But he used that lathe and he
Huh.
made our grandfather clock using that lathe with the neat posts with all the designs on them. And yeah, it's
Wow.
so he was really into it, but that equipment costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it
A
does.
nice wood lathe, the professional one is not
Right.
cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Not the one that, you have a crank handle and
Yeah, the old wood. He had one of those. My grandfather had one of those too.
oh, did he?
Yeah, yeah, he actually did, and he used it. He still used it, but he had a nice one too. But
Right.
okay, so you really need to come up with start working on that spending plan when you're
Yeah. So
5 years out.
you got to relook that spending plan and make sure everything's in line. You'll have thought of more things you want to do, so
Yeah,
make sure you incorporate those. And then this is when we start looking at, well, how long is my retirement going to last, right? So if I retire at 65 and you've got a family history of pretty good health, your retirement could last 25 years or more. That's a
30. Yeah.
long time to plan for, I can tell you.
A lot of
Um,
relatives on my dad's side made it past 95.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
and my
really good.
dad's 80 and he's still driving and stuff, so
Oh, wow,
he
that's
shouldn't
great.
be, but he is.
Oh, I don't have that problem. Both my grandfathers were gone before they were 63.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
That's not good. You better
No,
watch your health there, Chris.
I'm working on it.
Good. Yeah, you stay pretty healthy, you eat healthy. I mean,
Yeah,
Tara keeps you in line. You get
yes,
a
she
lot of
does.
exercise with Tara. She's a goer, right?
We hiked the incline last Sunday. It
Jeez.
was it was a lot of fun. So
Is that
that'll
the word really you'd use, is fun?
well,
Was it painful or hard at all, or
it's a little painful. It's a little hard. But, it was we
yeah.
I was not the, oldest person in the group, so therefore I didn't have to, push myself the hardest. Usually
Yeah.
when we go with Tara and her younger brothers,
Yeah, yeah,
and
then it's
and
like you're the old man of the
I'm the
group,
old man
right?
in the group,
Yeah,
right?
that's never fun. All right. Well, okay,
So,
so
yeah.
life expectancy is a biggie, and how
Yeah,
much time you're gonna spend in retirement, you have to plan for that,
yeah,
even though
so
no one has a crystal ball.
if you're gonna plan for 25 years, you really need to meet with a financial services professional, because that's a long time, and there's a lot of things can happen that you may or may not know about. So there's things that we would discuss, like long-term care insurance, life
Oh, yeah.
insurance, uh, maybe with an accelerated benefit rider that can help pay for that long-term care insurance,
Yeah.
is something that we talk with our clients about if that's something they're interested in. We look at assets. Where are they? What are they doing for them? is this asset in the right place? Does it have the right risk associated with it? Does it need to be in a riskier place? Does it need to be in a safer place? Sometimes I've moved clients into riskier things than I was like, let's go to the edge of your comfort level on this. And then we have this other asset that doesn't have risk. And so that helps bring down the risk of that, right?
Right.
So it's about an overall portfolio. Um,
Sure.
And so we actually start writing a list down of expected retirement expenses. So first we start with the fixed, the ones we know we're going to have. We know we're going to eat. We know we're going to have a place to live. We know, we're going to be paying for insurances on vehicles and maintaining vehicles and doing all these kinds of things. And then we got to figure out how much discretionary funds we need to have. So, okay, how much I want to do 4 trips to Europe every year. Okay. 10 grand a pop for a 2 weeks in Europe. So that's $40,000. Okay. Easy. Right in.
Yeah.
So you start writing them down, and then you start figuring out how you're going to get there. And then, maybe you say, well, maybe that's good. Here's one thing I want to tell you. If you're 5 years away from retirement and you're thinking about becoming an RVer, you should check that out. You should rent before you buy. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, and it's different. And the cost of staying at the KOAs and the various places
It's
has
gone up
gone
exponentially since COVID.
astronomical.
Yeah.
$1,250 a month for the one that's near my house.
That's nuts.
And it goes up to $1,450 in the summer.
That's like a mortgage payment for some people.
And it's
some
already
people think, well, it'll be cheaper than having our house, or we'll rent our house. It's like, no, it's expensive between the gas, the maintenance, and the rental fees on where you park. That's why you see more and more of them parked in Walmart lots. It's like, and you don't want to have to sleep overnight in a Walmart parking lot, and you can't always get electricity or water. So yeah, the KOAs, it is really expensive.
Well, this is a brand new KOA, and it's already half full. And, it's still dirt. They haven't grown any grass yet because it's that new, and it's already half full. It's amazing.
That's nuts.
People that are doing the RV lifestyle.
Yeah, it's popular, but the RV, the cost of the RV itself is crazy. I recommend renting one.
Rent one for
a while.
Rent one for a month. Go out for a month and check it out. Don't buy it.
And after 1 month, if you think that's the way you could live for a full year, a full 12, then
even if it's
half
time, even if it's just like I'm only going to do it in the summer.
Rent one for a month first. Yeah,
one for a month.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
it just reminds me of what the owner of Gradient Investments told me, Chuck Lucius. He said, "Tony, you don't ever need to own a boat, a cabin, or a swimming pool. You just need friends with boats, cabins, and swimming pools." That's what he told me.
That's right. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, me too.
and if you don't have friends, then you just rent those things. You don't buy them.
Exactly. You don't need a boat, Tony. You don't need to own a boat. You just need a friend with a boat. Yeah. And I go, but Chuck, you own a boat, right? Well, yeah,
that's me.
So anyway, okay, that's how he knows. Yeah. So, okay, that's good advice. Get that budget. And then of course, travel. We talked about that. 5 years out, you got to think about whether you're going to do that and what you're going to do with your time in general. Right. Yeah. That's a good thing to start planning, because you have to have a purpose in retirement, or you're not going to last long.
You've got a lot of free time in retirement, and you really need to start figuring out what hobbies you're going to have, how you're going to fill your day, how you're going to stay fit, right? What are you going to do? Sometimes some of the Medicare plans have what they call silver shoes, and they come with a gym membership.
Yeah.
So those are kind of neat. But even if they don't, go get a gym membership.
Yeah.
Right. And that's gyms are really nice now. They're
Yeah,
not
they
what they
are.
used to be.
No. No, it's really nice. So,
Yeah.
okay, now that we talked about 10 years out and
Yep.
5 years out, let's move into our last category of the 3 phases of retirement planning. This is before you
Yes.
get there, and that's when you're 1 year out from retirement.
So when you're 1 year out for retirement, guess what? The first thing to do is look at your spending plan again. And you're always going to keep revisiting this.
Yes.
And so, but you need to, now it's starting to get more clarified. And so you can figure out what that is. Discuss required minimum distributions with your financial services provider. There may be things you can do to manage those before they're due, because they come due when you're 73 or a lot later, 75 maybe. Um, so you have that to deal with. That means you have to pay taxes. So taxes are one of the biggest drains on retirement plans. So we always want to have a plan for those. Discuss Medicare. What plan do you want? What supplements do you need? We have a broker that we regularly interact with, and they know how to help build a plan that covers you the best. Understand what Medicare does and doesn't cover. Hey, if you're still working, right? You're 1 year out, you're still working. Maybe you need to get that knee replaced or whatever's going on. Get those elective surgeries done while you're still on your subsidized employer insurance. Okay, because Medicare, you have to get up to the deductible sometimes with some things. So it's a different thing when you're on the insurance with your employer. So
Yeah.
make sure you're getting that done. Here's something that I had a couple clients do without talking to me. They did it anyway. They refinanced their homes.
Hmm.
Why did they do that? Well, they could lower their payments, and they feel like they weren't going to live through 30 years, so they got a 30-year note. And they're like, okay, now it's set. I've lowered the payment. That way, I have more money in my budget now, and I'm never going to pay this house off. Who cares? Um, so that's kind of what they thought.
Sure. Their
Um,
kids might care.
the kids might care, but but it's something to look at. Maybe it's right for you. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
don't know.
I would not make a major move like that
No,
with your biggest asset without running it by my financial professional who can look at my big picture and say, "Okay, but if
right.
you do the math on what you're gonna pay," and of course, especially now, interest rates are still somewhat high. So now is not the greatest time to refinance anyway, probably. I mean,
No.
depends on where you're at,
Yes.
obviously, but I think most people are, if you owned your home before COVID, you're probably at a lower interest rate than you could get now. So you're not going to be refinancing. I mean, my wife and I are at 2.9%. And I think right now
Yeah,
the going rate's like 7.5 or 7.2,
that's
right?
crazy.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
we're out of time, man.
oh, we did run out of time. Sorry. I tell you what, great topic though. We covered a lot. Give the listeners one more time before we go that phone number and web address so they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so you can reach us at 719-210-4242. We'll run a Social Security maximization report for you to help you figure out when to file for Social Security. We'll also look at that risk analysis and see where you fit on our scale. So please give us a call, 719-210-4242. Visit us at nolanfinancialpartners.com.
All right. Thanks. And that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio.
Join us again next time for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio.